I'm going to play you a series of videos that's going to take you back in time and then bring you forward to where we are now. What I'm going to try and do is curate the impact of black music in the UK as a key component of pop. We don't normally talk about pop in terms of black music, but it's a major catalyst in the UK. And so we're going to talk about bass music. And I'm going to show you, with a series of videos, a journey. So here we go.
Probably the wildest guy in the business today. Wait a second. He's brought down houses from coast to coast. Where the flames? Cool it a second, would you? And border to border. Right, flames. The flames are right here tonight. Yeah, right here. James Brown and his famous flames.
Because I only have 1 minute a slide, this is going to go very quickly. What I'm trying to communicate here is that when we listen to music, it's supposed to impact on how we feel, but we're also negotiating the creator who's thinking about how he wants to make you feel. When we looked at that performance just now, we're observing the dance style, we're listening to the music, we're engaging with an energy that often we don't think about, we just feel. So in terms of emotional production, it has a lot to do with how it makes you feel. It is about innovation. It is about, can you arrive at something that is unique to you, that is special to you, that is different from the rest of the marketplace. And this is perhaps the most difficult component, how to innovate when using the same tools as everyone else. The main challenge, or one of the main challenges in the market at the moment, is that we're all using very similar technology. If we go back to when that video was made, around about 64, the technology was human beings. It was your ability to play an instrument. No sound. Technology. When this came out, it was a revolutionary sound entitled The Wall of Sound by Phil Spector. And what he, I was going to say invented, innovated, arrived at, found, discovered, however you want to put it, was a new sound. He went to churches, listened to the echo, much like we can hear from just over there. And he thought of how to encompass this within a production. But importantly, he was able to market that sound. He was able to make it popular. He was able to make it connect with others. Part of making that connection is communication. And I think often what musicians forget is that in production, you're having a conversation. A conversation with people who are not in the room, but the first conversation is actually with yourself as a producer. And one of the considerations there is, what are you saying? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to communicate? What are you using the language of music to communicate? This was the first track that really impacted on me. What was important about that track was the technology was a group of people playing together, making a specific sound. Capturing that sound in the studio was the challenge. But what was important was the sound of a group of people playing together, performing together live. And the challenge back then was to capture that live sound. That was what production was about. But the production started with the performance, making that performance work live. One of the challenges today is that the live performance is governed by technology. And it's making most of the performances very similar, less human, one might argue. Now remember, I'm taking you through a journey of black music in England. This song was written by a reggae artist, believe it or not. This was a reggae hit before it was covered by the Spencer Davis Group. And one of the things about London that is really important to understand is the conversations that takes place where you have lots of people from different parts of the world working creatively together. In London, we say there is no one from London. It's lots of people from somewhere else that have come together with unique experiences to be creative. That sound back then, without television, well, very little television, without MTV, was thought of as a black sound. Stevie Winwood was presumed to be black. Many people were surprised to find out that he was not. He mastered that sound. That was part of the production. It was identifying an experience, an emotion, and translating that into music. So music is an emotional conversation, and we'll get deeper into this as we move on. It's also about connecting that conversation with your audience. One of the most difficult things, if you get it right, language differences are not important. Music is a universal language. So if you get the production right, the fact that you speak another language is not that important. People will connect emotionally.
Police and thieves in the street, fighting the nation with their guns and ammunition. Police and thieves in the street,
Now, what's important about this song, Police and Thieves, this takes us into the 70s in the UK, is that the UK is already familiar with Jamaican music a decade before in the 60s. So you had reggae artists being popular in the UK in a way that they were not popular in other parts of the world. In fact, by the 70s, the UK was the international capital of Jamaican music. And what this meant is that the British community were as familiar with reggae as many Jamaicans. But the British community also embraced performing it in their own way. One of the interesting things about London is its ability to embrace other experiences without losing its identity. Here is an example, which is a cover of the song you just heard. This was a massive hit, believe it or not. And this is the same song I played just before. In the 70s, the black community in the UK and the white community, as young people, I'm looking in this audience, much the same age as most of you, came together musically. And what they recognized is what they had in common: a dislike for the government, a dislike for institutions, a dislike for the music industry. But they had something to say, and they recognized in each other what they wanted to say, and they expressed it differently. Punk and reggae came together to form a revolution in the UK. It was successful because it actually changed the way it made people feel. And people, mostly young people, drove the change. And it's important to understand this. Most of the changes in music are driven by young people who don't really give a shit about the establishment. If an older person says they don't like what you do, that is not a bad thing. They are not supposed to understand. It's a different generation, and each generation brings a new change. This is one of the changes that came from the revolution of punk and reggae coming together. Now, what's important about this is the interpretation. To many in the community, the black community, this was not reggae. However, it didn't matter. In the UK, this was marketed first as reggae, then as pop internationally, and then finally as rock. So somehow, in the marketing chain, this went from being reggae to being pop to being rock. So it's also understanding that within production, we get involved in a whole new language of marketing. Depending on who is up front, the marketing language changes around the same music. This is another band called The Specials.
This storm is coming like a ghost town. All the clubs are being closed down.
Hugely successful, again, in the UK. Each band I've shown you so far have sold millions of records, absolute millions. And it created communities internationally around British music. That last track by The Specials was also described as pop. Not reggae, not ska, but pop internationally. When the roots of what they're doing is reggae. What is important about this is that internationally it impacted on production, the sound of production. And because it was called pop, it confused producers, musicians, even an audience into redefining what this music is about. So what I'm saying here is that for my first time in Colombia, it's really interesting to listen to the music that's here, and potentially there is a whole new sound to come out of Colombia to impact on the world. But it has to be a revolution driven by young people. Now you have to engage with technology, which makes it a little bit easier. But you're in control, not the record companies, not the labels. And importantly, you have to connect internationally whilst recognizing your own identity. This is British pop. But behind it is a whole mixed community of experiences. And here I'm trying to explain, really, that your journey into music, which is every experience you have up to the point that you start creating music, is what makes you unique, is what makes you special. 3 key things to remember. Location. Where are you in the world? Time period. What time are you living in? 2016 is very different to 2010, to 1970, to 1980. And who is the community that surrounds you? Really important when making music. So the location, if that happens to be Colombia, that is special because there's something about that experience that makes it different from being in London or New York or Germany. Time period, 2016. If we've not heard of you in 2016, it means you're new, you're fresh, you have something to offer, a new experience. And what the industry's looking for now is difference, because everything is so familiar, so the same. So there's an opportunity here. Technology. You have an opportunity, just walking around this event, you have an opportunity to jump over other territories that don't have the technology. You can be international without leaving your house. That's really important. And the other speakers earlier, talking about Spotify, YouTube, and other platforms, really important. You have the power to connect. These are just images to remind you of some of the bands that were impacted on by reggae in the UK that were described as pop. Multi-million selling Police. Boy George, again, multi-million selling artist. UB40, again, multi-million selling artist. All these artists are described as pop. The Beat, again, the Specials. All these bands collectively created a new sound of pop in the UK.
Take in and take check. You can't tell like the shy effects. And when we come is murderation. All original gangster man. Here when we tell them no. Yeah, hear me coming on imitate. Originate, we come originate. Alright, mate. Take in and take check. You can't tell like the shy effects. And when we come is murderation. All original gangster man. Here when we tell them no. Yeah, hear me coming on imitate. Originate, we come originate. Alright, mate. Now what you doing, mate? Here when we tell them we come in from gears, I'm gonna stop that. Watch me tell you, rude boy. Watch this. No, 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 no. Bad boys in a London, rude boys in a England, bad boys in a Jamaica, rude boys in a Kingston. Watch out, you never know the gangster. Me say them in a jungle. Well, you never know the article. Me say them in a jungle. Well, you never know shy effects, man. Big in a jungle. Well, you never know you can watch it. Big in a jungle. When we tell everybody, watch it down, man. Me a the nutter, original man, nutter, original man, nutter, original.
Now, for those of you in the know, this is the godfather of drum and bass, Jungle. So we're going back to 1990 in the UK. This was considered
Excuse
underground.
me, Microsoft Outlook needs your attention.
Microsoft has my attention. This is 1990 in the UK. Jungle was considered not marketable, not saleable, underground, dismissed by the record industry. Its references, again, reggae, bass. Bass changed the sound of pop in the UK, indicated by the other artists I've shown you. Jungle was too raw. But interestingly, by 1993-94, Brazil was performing this music live and selling it back to Europe. They were the biggest exporters of jungle back to Europe. Jungle then had a son called drum and bass. So let's go on that little journey. And you'll see the reference points now between Jungle, Prodigy.
Excuse me, Microsoft Outlook needs your attention.
I'm the fear addicted, danger illustrated.
Okay. The point here, you'll start to see the references between old school reggae, technology, and new music, and how it's presented. Jungle was dismissed by the industry. 3 years later, we have bands like Prodigy being hugely successful with a new sound. But what's important is the components. Key components. One musician is a punk musician. One musician is heavily into reggae. Another is heavily into rock. So bringing together different experiences are absolutely crucial. It's about difference. If everyone has the same opinion, the same experience, same likes and dislikes, you're going to end up with boring music. Your new friends, when you're making a band or a production, is someone who is not like you. It doesn't matter if they're a computer programmer, an artist that paints, just someone who's not like you. You want difference. You want change. Consider the time period. Consider the location of that person. Consider the community, the musical community that they come from, and try and make it different. You have the ability with technology to partner with someone in London today, right now. All you need is a connection. And that's what you should be thinking about. You can escape Colombia with the press of a button and be working with someone online in seconds, if you really want to. All the artists that I'm showing you have combined experiences to create new music across time, across locations, and across communities.
Pacemaker is a portable music player and mixer with all the features you need to DJ anywhere, anytime. The pocket-sized DJ system gives you full control of your mixing right in the palm of your hand.
Sorry, couldn't avoid the advert.
You're watching DJ Vibe TV.
We're disturbing the other panels, but we don't care. They're concerned about the bass, when this whole session is about the bass. Bass travels. It's one of the things it does really well. The point here is that what you're listening to just now that they've asked me to turn down, dubstep. Dubstep 2010, 2012 became one of the biggest musical movements, launching artists like Skrillex. It could only happen in London, in the UK, because of that unique mixture of experiences, people, cultures, and freedom. Freedom, mental freedom to create, to collaborate. And what you see there is not dissimilar to what was happening 30 years before in a sound system session. But it was new, it was fresh, and it came out of London again as a combination of experiences communicating through music. This was #1 in the UK a year and a half ago. Again, a new sound combining all the previous elements I've been speaking about.
Stars out. We bring the women and the cars and the cards out. Let's have a toast, a celebration, get a glass out. And we can do this until we pass out.
Let it play, let it go away.
Yeah.
We won't come down until we hit the ground.
Yeah, pass out. Yeah, I'm in charge now. I'm a star and I brought my cars out. I live a very
It's a combination of reggae, ska, dub, punk, rock, all mixed up together. That's created a new sound. Each artist that comes along in the UK has to arrive at something different in order to survive in a very, very difficult market. When coming here, I was looking at different producers or different productions from different parts of the world, and there was a common denominator, capital cities, where people gather from around the world. Sweden has produced fantastic pop, but if you look at the community there, it goes all the way back to the Second World War and American GIs defecting to Sweden. There's a jazz heritage in Sweden. We look at Germany, We look at Kraftwerk. We have technology and music coming out of that city. We look at America, and we have lots of different parts of America contributing to this narrative of innovative production. We look at London, and again, we have this mixed community of people come together. And then we have a tiny place called Jamaica, less than 3 million people that have produced innovative music. There is absolutely no reason why Colombia shouldn't be on the map. There is a unique sound in Colombia, but you're going to have to share that. And the process of sharing that is connecting to other people. One of the things that happens in London is that the government recognizes music as soft power. If you affect young people with music, you affect the next generation. We have a whole tourist industry in the UK worth millions based on young people wanting to come to London to find out how we make popular music. When the story is, it's just about young people coming together. There's no reason why people wouldn't want to come to Colombia if you promoted that exchange, that possibility, that uniqueness that you have here. So for me, I'm a producer. For a long time, I focused just on producing music that goes in the charts. It's called a singles producer. So our job was to look at an album, pick which song we could work on to make it chart. If you don't chart, you lose your job. I did that for 10 years. My skill set is not technology. It is not the studio. It is understanding the psychology of a hit single. Why would you buy a single? Why? Any ideas why you might buy a single? We have to infect you with a piece of music that you react to in 30 seconds. 30 seconds, the mind makes a decision as to whether it likes, dislikes, recognizes, does not recognize a piece of music. If we can affect you in 30 seconds, you will ask yourself a question. Where have I heard this before? Do I like this? Do I want to continue listening to this? And within 30 seconds, the mind will process every single chord, every single beat, every single sound. If we're successful, you will listen for another 30 seconds just to decide if you really like it or you really dislike it. That is 1 minute of listening to a record. Radio pluggers focus on this 30-second time zone, and they decide whether they should playlist you or not. That 30 seconds is about arriving at something different, something interesting, something slightly challenging. And that often is just difference. There is a sound here in Colombia that is different. Think about it. Share it. This is a map of dance music created by Thompson's the touring company, the holiday company. They created a map of dance music based on tourism. People will travel based on music. If I try and get this to work. What you couldn't see on the screen was there were circles mapping different parts of the world. And what Thompson did, they researched where would people travel for music, created a map, and then programmed what music spoke to people would be in these places around the world, and then created flight destinations to these places. So there's a whole industry, tourism based on music. In my career as a music producer, I've produced over 100 albums, had number ones, platinum discs, silver discs, gold discs. And what I try and communicate to my students is getting one of these is difficult. Getting two is even more difficult. So how do you have a portfolio career? And it's understanding that the life cycle of a musician now in London is about 6 months. 6 months after you've had a hit. But you might spend 5 years trying to have that hit. And here is the psychology. Until you have the hit, it's possible. It's hopeful. After you've had the hit, if you don't have another hit, you're failing. The whole thing changes very quickly. So now we're saying don't have the hit. If you have a hit single, everyone expects another hit single. So don't have a hit single. Develop your audience. There is no rush. I'm conscious of time, so I can't go through this, but essentially what this is saying is that you have to go through all these various stages traditionally to have a career. What you can't see at the top is that it says 6 months. From the time you have a hit, you have opportunities to merchandise, into clothes, cosmetics, jewelry. There are loads of other things that artists now look at as a means of income. But if you don't hit that spot, the drop-off is almost immediate. And it's very difficult to come back round and complete this cycle. Very, very difficult. At our university, we've built, again, we can't see, last year we spent £200,000 on building state-of-the-art studio. Why? Because we are
Excuse
now...
me, Microsoft Outlook needs your attention.
Why? Because we now work with all the record companies. Every 2 weeks, we bring in a major professional into our facilities. I manage 16 recording studios, and we have about 200 production students. Our focus is the industry, but not just production. We look at managers, producers, marketing people, press people, videographers, film people, but we're talking about musicians. It's not just about playing an instrument anymore. Here's one of our graduates from a few years ago. What you can't see down here is he also signed Ed Sheeran. He went into publishing, but he was with us. He's now moved to LA last year. He has the top job.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Again, this is 2016. This is 2 of our students this year nominated for the Mercury Prize. This is a major award in the UK. One of them actually wins the award, but the point here is 2 of our students get nominated. So I'm going to play you music from Jamie Woon, I think, first. You'll hear the bass. Sorry, that was me. You'll also notice that we're getting musicians to play live.
Excuse me, Microsoft Outlook needs your attention.
When I give in to you, I've never been so existent. You can't know unless you feel it. Come back, body's aching from.
This is Mykaell Kiwanua. He actually won the Mercury Prize this year. This is what it looks like at university.
Standing now, calling all the people here to see the show.
Another one of our students. This is Al Shucks, another production student who wrote New York, forgot a song, Empire State, Jay-Z, Alicia Keys. He picked up a Grammy. So it means we lead in what we do. These are international producers, award-winning ex-students. This is, again, this year, producer who graduated 2 years ago, one of my production students. What you can't see down here is he's just signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Sony. And just in case you don't know who he is, I'll play you the track. That was a #1 recently. The point here is that we work with students to understand the international market. Before he graduated, all of the students that have charted, that have got deals, we get them to work with other people around the world, across the UK. No money's exchanged. It's a rule. You do it because you love doing it, and you want to understand how to network and work with others. We talk about the whole emotional side of working with people. If it's just about the money, you will not make any money. It has to be about the emotion. It has to be about the connection. In this case, that particular track was streamed over 300 million times. He had no deal at the time. But being successful in connecting created his value. So when it came to the deal, the labels had to pay a lot of money. Our most recent student, Marcella, who's in the audience here, Colombian student.
It's 15 hours.
She's charted. And this is the Music Week chart. Marcella's here in the audience, graduated a few years ago. And she's from here. It is possible. We have a history of working with Colombian students over the last 8 years, and most of them have serious jobs in production with film in London. So it is possible. A portfolio career, I've got 5 minutes left, is about your ability to adapt to a change and change. And in most cases, the students came in wanting to do one thing and left doing several other things. So in many cases, someone came in to be the artist, they left as a DJ, they left as a manager, they left as a publisher, or they made friends who became publishers, managers, producers. And the point here is that your new friend in the industry is not another musician. It really isn't. It's someone who embraces technology, someone who embraces anything but music, but is engaged with being current. In terms of careers, I still produce, I still perform. I did 4 festivals last year, but I also set up my own research unit. And this year, I got awarded £533,000 to continue the research. The point here is, if you understand how it works, you can get money out of the system. They didn't give me the £500,000. They gave it to the university, but I have access to developing research with that money. And the point here is that in the UK, the whole music industry is considered business, big business. And at our university, we try and get students to understand the business of production, the business of connecting internationally, the business of communicating on the basis of emotions. If you're able to do this, language is not an issue. A sustained career is not an issue. It is possible. And I'd just like to say, because I have to stop, thank you for coming. It's my first time in Colombia. I will find a way to get back here somehow. And if you want to talk to me about anything, feel free to talk to me. If there's any questions, let me know. Any questions? Anyone? Questions? Thank you.